Have you ever witnessed a single moment so heart-stirring that it changed the entire course of someone's life? Picture a dimly lit upscale restaurant in the heart of New York City, where a wealthy man in a tailored suit sits across from his disabled son. The boy struggles with his food until a compassionate waitress steps in, gently spoon-feeding him with a radiant smile. Little does she know, the billionaire father watches every move. But it's not mere gratitude in his eyes. It's revelation. What follows is a roller coaster of secrets, generosity, and startling twists that will redefine both of their lives forever. James Harrington was used to eyes upon him wherever he went. At 45, he had built a fortune through Harrington Acquisitions, a company specialized in technology startups and philanthropic ventures. Sipping his usual black coffee and surveying the bustling dining room of the Mirabelle, the restaurant he partially owned, he glanced across the table to his 14-year-old son, Ethan. Ethan Harrington was no ordinary teenager. A birth injury had left him with limited mobility and significant challenges in communication. He was wheelchair-bound, but his eyes sparkled with the determination of someone who recognized the beauty in small things. He adored reading, or rather being read to, and found solace in painting watercolors of sunsets and birds. For James, Ethan was his entire world. Everything he did, all the deals, the expansions, the philanthropy. James nurtured the dream that he could build a world so inclusive that Ethan and kids like him would never feel left out. That evening, James had come to the Mirabelle for two reasons. First, to meet his old college friend and co-investor, Marcus Wilcox, to discuss an upcoming philanthropic gala benefiting the Redwood Foundation, a legitimate charity endorsed by well-known figures like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Second, to spend some quality time with Ethan over dinner. As father and son looked over the menu, James couldn't help but notice the curious stares from other patrons. He was used to it. Some recognized him as one of the city's wealthiest entrepreneurs. Others merely noticed Ethan's wheelchair. The looks used to bother James when Ethan was younger, but he had learned to drown them out. He focused on Ethan instead, pointing out items on the menu, though he knew his son preferred simpler foods. A busboy filled their water glasses, and James could sense Ethan's usual discomfort at the attention from staff who weren't sure how to approach him. Then from somewhere near the kitchen, a cheerful voice called out, "I can take it from here, Terrence. Thank you." Stepping up to their table was a waitress, perhaps, in her late 20s with smooth ebony skin and a bright smile that instantly lit the room. Her black curls were pinned back neatly, and a name tag read, Alicia Monroe. She greeted James and Ethan warmly, explaining the specials with a gentle, respectful tone. There was no awkward hesitation around Ethan, no pity in her eyes, just genuine kindness. "Hey there, Ethan," she said softly. "Are you excited for dinner tonight? We have this delicious butternut squash soup that's easy to eat if that interests you." Ethan nodded tentatively, making a small sound that indicated approval. James was struck by how naturally Alicia connected with his son. Usually servers darted nervous glances at Ethan, unsure if they should speak directly to him. But Alicia had addressed Ethan first, and that touched James deeply. "What would you like?" Alicia asked Ethan, as though speaking to any other teenager. She waited patiently for James to help guide the conversation, yet she gave Ethan time to process. James cleared his throat. "I think Ethan would enjoy the soup and maybe some mashed potatoes on the side. For me, I'll take the grilled salmon, please." With a nod, Alicia jotted it all down. "Excellent choices. I'll bring that right out." She disappeared into the kitchen, leaving James to glance over at Ethan, who was grinning in his own subtle way. Father and son exchanged a silent understanding. Alicia Monroe was different in all the best ways. While they waited, Marcus Wilcox arrived, his pinstripe suit slightly askew, and joined them at the table. He greeted Ethan with a ruffle of the boy's hair, but Ethan winced. Marcus had known Ethan all his life, yet his interactions were often clumsy and overly familiar. James swiftly shifted attention to business talk, focusing on the Redwood Foundation Gala and how they plan to attract big donors. Names like Elon Musk and Mark Cuban surfaced as potential attendees. The conversation was mechanical, as though James was a well-oiled machine churning out philanthropic strategies. Suddenly, Alicia returned with the soup and carefully placed it in front of Ethan. She set the salmon down before James giving them both a bright, reassuring look. Marcus on his phone barely noticed. James was about to pick up Ethan's spoon when Alicia's voice cut through. "May I help him?" she asked politely. James paused. No server had ever offered that before. Usually James or Ethan's caretaker assisted him, unsure. James glanced at his son. Something in Ethan's expression said he was comfortable with Alicia, so James nodded. With tender, practiced hands, Alicia stirred. The soup blew on it to ensure it wasn't too hot, and brought the spoon up to Ethan's lips. Ethan sipped it, a small droplet lingering on his chin, which Alicia gently dabbed away with a napkin. At first, James felt a flicker of self-consciousness. He wasn't used to someone stepping in so naturally, but he couldn't deny the relief and warmth that flooded him. Alicia continued feeding Ethan, never once showing impatience or awkwardness. Her voice was light as she spoke to Ethan. "This soup is so good. I had some in the back. You like it, don't you?" Ethan responded with a quiet hum that James knew indicated happiness. Marcus, finally looking up from his phone, raised an eyebrow at the scene, but said nothing. James caught the perplexity on his friend's face, but in that moment, James could only feel an unexpected gratitude. A wave of emotions swelled inside him, pride, relief, and a strange sense that something life-changing was happening right before his eyes. After finishing with Ethan, Alicia excused herself to tend to other tables. James watched her weave through the restaurant, gracefully balancing plates and exchanging friendly banter with patrons. He caught snippets of conversation. Her laughter. Her, "Have a lovely evening, sir." Her, "Thank you. Come again." She was a model employee, but there was something more behind her eyes, a certain weight, as though her bright disposition hid a more complicated story. Curiosity gnawed at him. He'd meet countless people in his line of work. Some sought his mentorship, others simply wanted his money, or an inroad to powerful circles. Yet Alicia seemed uninterested in who James was, beyond being a polite guest. She treated Ethan with an earnest heart. When Marcus excused himself to make a phone call, James motioned for Alicia. "I just wanted to say, thank you," he began. "You made Ethan feel comfortable." The warm smile that Alicia gave him was genuine. "No need to thank me, Mr. Harrington. Serving families like yours is what I do." James nodded. "You're very good at it. If you don't mind my asking, how long have you worked here?" "Almost a year," Alicia answered. "Before that, I was at a diner across town. I needed something steadier with better tips to support my grandmother." James sensed a deeper tale. He glanced at her left hand. No ring. "You take care of your grandmother?" Alicia smiled, though the corners of her eyes pinched with worry. "Yes. She's all I have left in the family. We live in a small apartment in Harlem. She's been sick lately, but I'm doing my best to juggle her medical bills." At that moment, James felt a flicker of empathy. He knew what it was like to manage heavy burdens. Yet behind the compassion, an idea sparked. He wanted to do something for Alicia, though he wasn't yet sure what. Later that night, after dinner was done, and Alicia had declined James's offer for a tip that was larger than usual, she accepted only half, insisting the rest be split among the busboys. James found himself sitting in the quiet hush of his apartment living room. Ethan was asleep in his specially equipped bedroom. James gazed at the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows, recalling Alicia's gentle manner. It was more than kindness. Alicia had treated Ethan as a person, not a burden, that struck him in a way he couldn't quite shake. He remembered a moment years ago when a caretaker at Ethan's daycare had lost patience, snapping at him for being slow. James had arrived to pick up Ethan early and witnessed the incident. He remembered the rage, the heartbreak, the vow that he would never let Ethan be mistreated again. With a sigh, James wondered if he was overthinking it. Alicia was just a waitress doing her job, but something told him that a greater intersection of lives was at play here. On a whim, he pulled out his phone and shot off an email to one of his trusted assistants, Danielle Morgan, asking her to discreetly find out more about Alicia Monroe's background. The impulse felt unusual, even invasive, but James believed if Alicia was truly in need of help, he could offer it. He rationalized that he didn't want to intrude on her privacy. He just wanted to know if she was someone he could assist in a philanthropic way. After all, James regularly sponsored scholarships, housing programs, and charitable funds for people in need. He set the phone aside, closed his eyes, and tried to sleep. The image of Alicia feeding Ethan lingered, and for some reason, it made him smile. Across town in Harlem, Alicia guided her grandmother Clara Monroe into bed. Clara's once strong voice was now weakened by age and illness, her hands trembling whenever she tried to hold a glass of water. Alicia had done everything possible to keep her grandmother comfortable. She'd picked up extra shifts at the Mirabelle, sold old furniture to pay for medication, and even borrowed money from her friend Ebony Jones, a nurse, to cover the last hospital bill. "Did you eat enough tonight?" Grandma Alicia asked, pulling the blankets up to the older woman's chin. Clara patted her granddaughter's hand with a frail smile. "You're too good to me, child. Always working so hard." Alicia forced a cheerful tone. "I enjoy it. Plus they're treating me well at the Mirabelle, and I met a wonderful young boy tonight. He reminded me to keep smiling." Clara's eyes gleamed at Alicia's mention of the boy. She wanted to hear more, but exhaustion overtook her. Within minutes she was asleep. Alicia tiptoed out, flicking off the lamp. In the dim hallway she passed by a framed picture of herself as a child, perched on her father's shoulders. Her parents were gone now, taken in a car accident years before Clara had raised her, since she was 8. If not for her grandmother's unwavering love, Alicia might have fallen into despair. She pressed her fingers to the glass, silent tears gathering, trying to shake off sadness. Alicia reminded herself of the glimmer of hope she'd felt while feeding Ethan Harrington. She didn't know who James Harrington truly was, only that he had the refined manner of a wealthy man. But something in his eyes made her believe that compassion and generosity could still exist in a city often driven by self-interest. The next morning, James woke to an email from Danielle Morgan. The subject line read, "Confidential report. Alicia Monroe." James opened it, coffee in hand, scanning quickly. The details confirmed. Alicia's age 28, her grandmother's medical struggles, and her consistent employment history in hospitality. There was no mention of any legal trouble or personal scandal. She had a high school diploma from Anderson High School, had dropped out of a local community college to care for her grandmother full-time. At the end of the email, Danielle wrote, "She seems like a genuinely hard-working individual with no red flags. Her finances are tight, especially regarding medical bills for her grandmother. She's behind on rent by 2 months. Let me know if you'd like me to investigate further." James leaned back in his leather office chair. He felt a mixture of relief and something akin to guilt for prying into Alicia's affairs. Yet the knowledge also fueled his desire to help. Perhaps he could quietly cover her rent or set up some assistance for her grandmother's medical bills. He'd done that for employees before, though never for a waitress he barely knew. But Alicia was different. She had treated Ethan with kindness and dignity. That alone was worth 100 times any philanthropic gesture. He typed a reply, "Danielle discreetly pay her rent for the next 6 months through the Harrington Philanthropic Fund. Also see if we can arrange for her grandmother's medical bills to be handled by one of our healthcare partnerships. Keep it anonymous." He hit send. For a moment, James considered simply offering Alicia the money directly, but he feared it might embarrass her. Often people with the most pride and dignity don't wish to be charity cases. This way, at least her immediate financial burdens would be lifted without any direct confrontation. A week later, at the Mirabelle, Alicia noticed something strange. Her landlord, who had been hounding her daily about the overdue rent, suddenly stopped calling. When she mustered the courage to phone the management office, a crisp voice told her, "Your debt has been cleared, Ms. Monroe. The next 6 months are prepaid." The line went dead before she could ask who was responsible. Shock coursed through her. She rummaged through her purse to check if she had missed any notice or letter. Nothing. That night, the pharmacy called to say her grandmother's medication had been covered by an anonymous sponsor's insurance plan. Alicia nearly dropped the phone. To add to the whirlwind, 2 days later, Alicia received a letter in the mail from the Redwood Foundation, the philanthropic group organizing an upcoming gala. It was an invitation to the exclusive event, promising an evening of fundraising for medical assistance programs. On the backside of the letter, a handwritten note read, "Your kindness does not go unnoticed. Join us on this special night. Dress code, formal." A friend? Alicia's heart pounded. She had never attended anything so lavish in her life. She thought of the Mirabelle's fancy setting and the well-to-do patrons like Mr. Harrington. Could he be behind this? It didn't make sense, but she didn't know anyone else with the means or the connection to the Redwood Foundation. Anxiety and excitement twined together. On one hand, this could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience to mingle with individuals who might help her grandmother's situation further. On the other, she felt out of place. She was a waitress, not a millionaire. Still something within her yearned to go. That evening, after tucking Clara into bed, Alicia sat at the small kitchen table with the invitation in front of her. A swirl of questions clouded her mind. Should she attend? If she did, what would she wear? She had no formal gowns. Even with her rent covered, she had limited savings. Yet something about the Redwood Foundation sparked hope. Alicia remembered reading about their philanthropic works. They provided assistance to single parents, offered scholarships, and had funded new medical equipment in underserved communities. It was rumored that Mark Cuban once matched a massive donation for them. If they invited her, perhaps they already knew her story. She sat in front of her laptop, searching secondhand online boutiques for an affordable formal dress. After scouring dozens of listings, she found a simple navy blue evening gown in her size. The price was reasonable. She closed her eyes, mustering courage, and clicked, buy. As the days passed, Alicia felt conflicting emotions. She was delighted her burdens had been eased, but the suddenness of it all frightened her. She wasn't accustomed to life's problems being so easily resolved, and she couldn't shake the suspicion that James Harrington was behind it. From his office on the 27th floor of Harrington Tower, James signed off on the Redwood Foundation Gala's final preparations. He was a key sponsor after all. The seats were $5,000 a plate, and the event was set to attract celebrities, hedge fund managers, and philanthropic icons. Everything from the lavish decor to the musical performances by well-known singer Pharrell Williams was meticulously planned. His phone buzzed. "Danielle Morgan for you, sir," came the voice of his receptionist. James pressed the speaker button. "Yes, Danielle. I just wanted to confirm that Ms. Alicia Monroe has received her invitation. She's RSVP'd, yes." James felt his heart unexpectedly skip. Good in the rent. The medical bills? All taken care of. She knows it's anonymous, but I suspect she might be on to us. Danielle replied with a chuckle. James exhaled a bit too heavily. "All right. Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate your discretion." He hung up, feeling both relieved and nervous. He hadn't planned on inviting Alicia to the gala initially, but something had prodded him to do so. He wanted her to be recognized, to be part of a larger conversation about compassion and healthcare. Maybe he just wanted to see her in a different setting, to acknowledge in some way that her kindness had impacted him and Ethan. A part of him worried it was paternalistic meddling in her life. Yet James reminded himself that often all it takes is one opportunity for extraordinary people to rise beyond their circumstances. The Redwood Foundation Gala took place in a historic ballroom near Central Park. Elegant chandeliers cast warm light on the marble floors, and an orchestra played soft music. Guests arrived in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, stepping out of black SUVs that lined the curb. Alicia's heart hammered in her chest as she stepped inside, alone. She wore her second-hand navy blue gown, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun. She clutched a small purse, feeling more like a wide-eyed girl from a humble neighborhood than someone meant to be at a $5,000 per plate charity event. She scanned the crowd. Corporate tycoons mingled with celebrities. She even recognized the famous investor, Mark Cuban, across the room, deep in conversation with Bill Gates. Waiters in white gloves circulated with trays of champagne. Feeling out of place, Alicia almost turned to leave, but then she spotted him, James Harrington, standing near the stage with a small group, including his friend, Marcus Wilcox. James looked dashing in a classic black tuxedo, but he also appeared tense. He glanced around, his gaze soon locking onto Alicia. His eyes softened and he broke away from the group, striding toward her. "You made it," James said, smiling. "I did." Alicia tried to steady her voice. "I received that letter, the invitation. I wasn't sure if it was really for me." James inclined his head. "I wanted you here." He paused. "I'm on the board of directors for the Redwood Foundation, and we'd like to invite individuals who embody the spirit of kindness and hard work. People whose stories can inspire." Alicia felt her throat tighten. She wanted to ask if James was behind clearing her debts and the medical bills, but this wasn't the place. Instead, she managed a soft, "Thank you." James led her through the crowd, introducing her to a few board members. She could barely process the fancy titles and philanthropic accolades, yet no one looked down on her. To her surprise, they seemed genuinely interested in meeting someone. James clearly respected. Midway through the evening, after a sumptuous dinner and a rousing speech about the foundation's achievements, the MC took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special moment. Our board members would like to honor a guest whose compassion, humility, and perseverance exemplify what this foundation stands for." Alicia shifted in her chair, glancing around to see who might be recognized. The next word stunned her. "Please welcome Ms. Alicia Monroe." Trembling, Alicia stood. Applause echoed through the ballroom. James guided her onto the stage where the MC handed her a crystal plaque etched with her name. He read from a card. For her kindness toward those in need, her dedication to family, and her unwavering generosity of spirit, we present Alicia Monroe with the Redwood Foundation Honorary Heart Award. Tears brimmed in Alicia's eyes. She turned to James, who gave her an encouraging nod. In a shaking voice, she managed a few words at the microphone. I'm beyond grateful. I never imagined a night like this. Thank you to the Redwood Foundation, to Mr. Harrington, and to everyone who believes that small acts of compassion can make a difference. The applause roared. Cameras flashed. Alicia spotted a few well-known faces wiping tears. As she exited the stage, she felt James's firm yet gentle hand on her back. Later, after the formal program ended, James found Alicia near a grand piano in the foyer. She was gazing at the plaque, tears drying on her cheeks. He cleared his throat gently. "I hope you're not upset with me for putting you on the spot." Alicia shook her head. "I'm overwhelmed but not upset." She paused, biting her lower lip. "Was it you? The rent, the medical bills, the invitation?" James looked at her with earnest eyes. "Yes, it was me. I'm sorry if I crossed a line, but I wanted to help you. The way you helped Ethan." Alicia's eyes filled again. "I don't know what to say. I can't possibly repay you." James placed a hand on her shoulder, an uncharacteristic gesture of closeness. "There is no debt you gave my son, dignity and comfort, when no one else bothered to learn how to approach him. That's invaluable." Alicia lowered her gaze. "Still, I feel like I owe you something." "Then do me one favor," James said softly. "Keep being the person you are." Their eyes locked for a moment. In that shared silence, Alicia felt her gratitude deepen into something more profound. Respect, admiration, and a sense that James Harrington was more than just a billionaire in a tux. He was a father fighting every day for his son's happiness, a man who recognized kindness and rewarded it in ways that changed lives. The next day, the newspapers and business blogs buzzed about the Redwood Gala. Photos captured Alicia accepting her plaque. Speculations arose about whether she was James Harrington's new protege or philanthropic partner. Gossip columns twisted the story, implying a possible romantic angle which flustered Alicia when she read them. At the Mirabelle, her co-workers were abuzz. The manager, Roland, was particularly thrilled seeing the free publicity. Some waitresses eyed Alicia with jealousy, others with awe. One of the other waiters, Martin, nudged her gently. "Don't forget us when you become some big-shot CEO." "Alicia," she blushed. "Oh, please, I'm just the same person." That day business soared. Customers asked to sit in Alicia's section, wanting to meet the woman honored by the Redwood Foundation. Alicia handled the attention with poise, though her thoughts often drifted to James and Ethan. She wondered how Ethan was doing, if he remembered her, if he realized how special that night had been for her. As the weeks passed, Alicia's life took a turn for the better. She paid off some outstanding debts and refocused on caring for her grandmother. The Redwood Foundation Award had also come with a small grant to help with immediate medical needs. Alicia felt like she was finally seeing daylight after years of struggle. Yet new challenges arose. Clara's health deteriorated faster than Alicia had expected. Doctor appointments revealed advanced heart complications. Despite the financial relief, time was the real issue now. Each night Alicia would finish work and rush home, often staying awake until dawn to watch over her grandmother. Exhaustion loomed. It was during one particularly stressful week that James Harrington contacted her again. He invited her to a Sunday brunch at his penthouse, an intimate gathering to celebrate Ethan's birthday. Unsure, Alicia debated whether to accept such a personal invitation. But the memory of Ethan's gentle smile and James's sincere gratitude made her heart soften. She agreed. Arriving at James's penthouse, Alicia marveled at the panoramic view of the city skyline. Floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the living room in sunlight. A spread of balloons in soft blue and white framed a large painting of an ocean scene that Ethan had done, showcasing his burgeoning artistic talent. James greeted Alicia at the door, dressed casually in a sweater and slacks. "I'm so glad you could come." Stepping inside, Alicia spotted Ethan near a window, flipping through a picture book with a caretaker by his side. She felt a rush of emotion at how big and bright the place was, so different from her cramped Harlem apartment. Yet the atmosphere was warm, not sterile. She joined Ethan, gently touching his arm to announce her presence. "Happy birthday, Ethan," she said softly. "I hope today is amazing for you." Ethan glanced up, meeting her eyes. His smile subtle, but definitely there was all the greeting Alicia needed. She offered him a small gift, a handcrafted sketchbook with his name on it. "I thought you might like to draw in something that's just yours," she explained. Ethan's eyes lit up. He reached for the sketchbook, eagerly flipping through the blank pages. Alicia noticed James watching them from a few steps away, his face etched with tenderness. Just as the small group settled down for brunch, the door opened, revealing Marcus Wilcox. He waltzed in with a forced cheerfulness that made Alicia slightly uneasy. She remembered his dismissive attitude at the Mirabelle that first night. Now, with no phone to distract him, he focused a curious stare on Alicia. "So, you're the famous Alicia Monroe," Marcus said, extending a hand. "How does it feel to be the Redwood Foundation's rising star?" Alicia managed a polite smile. "I'm not a star. Mr. Wilcox, I'm just grateful for the opportunities I've had." Marcus gave a small laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes. "That's very modest of you." James shot Marcus a sharp look, as if warning him to keep it civil. They moved into the dining room, a cozy space with a tasteful arrangement of fresh flowers. Ethan was settled in at the head of the table, next to James. Alicia sat across from them with Marcus to her left. The caretaker helped Ethan with his meal, though Alicia noticed the caretaker frequently looking to her as if wanting Alicia to take over. She offered the caretaker a warm smile, but she wasn't sure if stepping in was appropriate here at a family event. Meanwhile, Marcus asked prying questions about Alicia's grandmother, her finances, her future plans. She found herself answering cautiously, not wanting to divulge too much. James broke in to redirect the conversation, talking about an upcoming Harrington acquisitions project. But Alicia suspected Marcus's curiosity was more about understanding why James was so invested in Alicia's well-being. After brunch, while Ethan played with some new art supplies in the living room, James invited Alicia to step onto the terrace for some fresh air. The terrace was spacious, adorned with potted plants and comfortable outdoor seating. The city stretched out below them, a mesmerizing patchwork of skyscrapers and streets. James leaned against the railing, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. "There's something I've been meaning to speak with you about." "A proposition." Alicia raised her brows. "Proposition." James inhaled slowly. "I've been thinking about setting up a new philanthropic project, something more direct, hands-on to help individuals like you who juggle caring for loved ones while trying to make ends meet." Alicia nodded slowly, not fully grasping what he was getting at. He continued, "I want to start a small trust, part of which will offer direct scholarships for nurses or caregivers who wish to train further, and also partial ownership in local community businesses for people with proven track records of kindness and dedication. I'd like you to be on the advisory panel, maybe even manage part of the outreach." Alicia's mouth fell open. "Me, but I'm just a waitress." James's eyes shone with conviction. "No, Alicia. You're so much more than that. You have empathy, resilience, and an innate talent for connecting with people. I can teach you business strategies, or you can learn them through foundation-sponsored courses. What I can't teach is a genuine heart, and you already have that." The enormity of the offer made Alicia's head spin. She longed to do more than wait tables to make a real impact. But fear held her back. Fear of failure, of venturing into a world she barely understood. She swallowed hard. I don't know if I can. My grandmother's health is declining. I'm not sure I have the time." James reached out lightly, touching her elbow. "I understand. Take your time to think about it. If you decide yes, we'll work around your schedule. I promise you won't lose the stability you have now." Behind them, the sound of Ethan's laughter drifted through the open glass doors. Alicia smiled, hearing that sweet noise. Perhaps this was more than just an opportunity for personal gain. Maybe it was a chance to give back on a larger scale. Yet Alicia's shoulders tensed under the weight of such a momentous decision. That evening, Alicia returned to her Harlem apartment to find her grandmother noticeably weaker. Clara had refused food most of the day, complaining of chest pains. Alicia immediately dialed the doctor, who calmly advised them to come in first thing in the morning. Sitting by Clara's bedside, Alicia recounted her day, the brunch at James's penthouse, and the incredible offer he had made. Clara's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Alicia with surprising clarity. "You must take it, child," Clara said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's your chance to do something meaningful." Alicia fought back tears. "Grandma, I don't want to leave you alone so much." Clara gave a faint smile, her frail hand trembling as she covered Alicia's. "I'm not alone if I know you're out there making a difference. Promise me you won't let my illness hold you back." Unable to speak around the lump in her throat, Alicia nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. In the early hours of dawn, Clara's breathing grew shallow. Alicia dialed 911, but by the time the ambulance arrived, Clara Monroe had passed away. The paramedics tried resuscitation, but to no avail. Grief consumed Alicia as she held her grandmother's cooling hand, sobs racking her body. The next days were a blur, arrangements calls, the final services. Word reached the Mirabelle, and her manager gave her time off. A small memorial service was held in the local church, where neighbors came to pay respects. A single large bouquet arrived with a card signed James and Ethan Harrington. A week after the funeral, Alicia sat alone on the old couch in her apartment, the weight of loneliness crashing over her. She had lived her entire life caring for someone else. Now she was unmoored, no grandmother to come home to, no caretaker role to fill. It was a hollow freedom. That evening she called James. In a shaky voice she said, "I'm ready to be part of your new project, if the offer still stands." "It does," James replied gently. "And I'm so sorry about your grandmother. Let me know how we can help." Alicia closed her eyes. "Just let me work. I need to pour my energy into something that matters." She could sense James's compassion through the phone, and it comforted her. She wasn't alone in this new chapter. 2 months passed in a whirlwind. Alicia transitioned to a role within Harrington Acquisitions, focusing on philanthropic outreach. She participated in weekly training sessions, learning about grant applications, community relationships, and resource allocation. Initially, she was overwhelmed by the corporate environment, but James assigned her a mentor, an experienced program manager named Sarah Winston, who guided Alicia patiently. Ethan occasionally visited the office with his caretaker, spending time in the specialized recreational area James had built for employees' children. Each time Alicia saw Ethan, she felt a sense of purpose reaffirming itself. His shy smile reminded her why she was there, to help create a world with fewer barriers. Still, Alicia found herself butting heads with Marcus Wilcox, who seemed skeptical of her capabilities. "You have a good heart, Alicia," he once said. But heart doesn't always translate into sound business decisions. She tried not to let his cynicism affect her, yet it lingered. Behind the scenes, Marcus Wilcox privately expressed concerns to James. "She's a sweet girl, but she lacks formal education or corporate experience. Are you sure we're not setting her up to fail?" James bristled. "She's learning quickly. Don't underestimate her potential." Marcus. Despite James's confidence, friction grew when Alicia proposed a new initiative to provide microgrants for single caregivers who wanted to pursue healthcare certifications. Marcus argued that the idea was risky, that recipients might default or misuse funds. One afternoon, Alicia discovered critical data missing from her files, information she needed for a presentation. She sensed sabotage. Searching the office network, she found the documents were moved to a restricted folder under an administrative account. Suspicion fell on Marcus, or someone loyal to him, but she had no proof. Determined not to let her project fail, Alicia worked late into the night, reconstructing her data. When James found her in the conference room, eyes red from exhaustion, he realized the extent of the obstacles she was facing. He didn't say much, just placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Keep going, Alicia. I believe in you." During a board meeting meant to finalize the philanthropic project's budget, Marcus publicly challenged Alicia's qualifications. "We're on a tight schedule, and I'd like to see a more thorough cost-benefit analysis before we sink funds into these microgrants." Alicia tried to present her revised data, but Marcus kept interrupting with pointed questions about her methods, effectively undermining her. The tension escalated until James intervened. "That's enough. Marcus, Ms. Monroe has provided ample research. She's already identified pilot candidates, and the Redwood Foundation is willing to match our initial investment." James's authoritative voice commanded the room. Marcus threw up his hands, feigning compliance. "Fine, proceed. But I hope we're not throwing money into the wind. Alicia's cheeks flamed, but she maintained composure. After the meeting, James apologized to her for Marcus's behavior. Alicia shook her head. "It's all right, I won't let it stop me." However, the confrontation weighed heavily on her. She began to question if she truly belonged in this world. Alicia's pilot program launched within weeks, offering microgrants to a small group of caregivers pursuing advanced healthcare training. The recipients, mostly single mothers or adult children caring for aging parents, were overjoyed. Their tearful gratitude reminded Alicia of her grandmother, who had always told her to fight for what was right. Word of the program spread. A local news outlet ran a feature highlighting Harrington Acquisition's new philanthropic direction and praising Alicia's personal involvement. Her empathy and authenticity shone through in every interview. Soon donors and other philanthropic groups took notice, some even expressing interest in replicating the model. Marcus, cornered by the program's success, had no choice but to support it publicly. James discreetly observed the shift in Marcus's demeanor, noting that while Marcus outwardly played along, the tension remained beneath the surface. Amid the rising acclaim, Alicia found herself busier than ever, but she also felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer a waitress struggling in silence. She was an advocate for those who walked a similar path. One afternoon, a woman approached Alicia in the Harrington Tower lobby. She was Ebony Jones, Alicia's childhood friend and the nurse who had once lent her money for Clara's hospital bills. Ebony had heard about Alicia's new role and came seeking assistance for a community health project at the clinic where she worked. Over lunch in the building's cafe, Ebony explained their clinic was in desperate need of updated equipment. "Could your microgrant program help us? Or maybe Harrington Acquisition sponsor us?" Ebony asked, hope flickering in her eyes. Touched by Ebony's request, Alicia promised to bring it up with James. She then recalled how Ebony had once saved her from eviction by offering a small loan. "I won't forget what you did for me," Alicia said. "Let's see how we can make this happen." A few days later, Alicia presented Ebony's clinic project to James and the board. Marcus remained skeptical, but this time Sarah Winston backed Alicia's proposal. She highlighted the clinic's transparency and strong track record in the community. When the final vote came, the board approved a trial donation. Alicia exhaled in relief. Marcus, to her surprise, even mustered a polite nod. She couldn't tell if his attitude was truly changing or if he was simply bowing to the board's majority. Either way, Ebony's clinic would get the help they needed. That night, Alicia returned home, having moved to a modest but nicer apartment with a small balcony. She gazed at the city lights, recalling how just months ago she was on the brink of eviction. Now she was part of the very system offering others a lifeline. Gratitude swelled in her chest. A strange call came late one evening from the Mirabelle's manager, Roland. In a hushed tone, he told Alicia that a tabloid reporter had been snooping around, asking employees about her relationship with James Harrington. The headlines wrote themselves, "Billionaire's Charity Case," or "Secret Lover." Alicia felt her stomach churn at the insinuation. She informed James, who sighed heavily, "I'll handle it. This nonsense happens all the time when you're in the public eye." But the tabloids didn't relent. Sensational articles implied Alicia had manipulated James for financial gain. They dug into her past, highlighting her debts, her grandmother's health struggles, painting a distorted narrative that she was an opportunist who latched onto James's wealth. Anxiety gripped Alicia. She worried about the foundation's reputation, about how Ethan might be affected by these rumors. But James stood by her, releasing a public statement praising Alicia's integrity and contributions to their philanthropic work. The Redwood Foundation also published a glowing endorsement, crediting Alicia's micro-grant program with changing lives. For every nasty headline, there were dozens of heartfelt messages from program recipients, community leaders, and supporters who had seen Alicia's genuine efforts. While the tabloids thrived on controversy, a powerful wave of positive stories drowned out most of the negativity. Days turned into weeks, and the scandal slowly died down. Through it all, Alicia and James grew closer, not romantically, but as friends who respected each other. They bonded over shared values, over each other's struggles and triumphs. One evening, Alicia invited James and Ethan to a small backyard barbecue at her new apartment. Ebony was there, along with a few of Alicia's friends from the Mirabelle. It was a humble gathering, far from the luxury of Harrington Tower, but the camaraderie was genuine. Ethan, with James's help, tasted grilled corn and beamed at the festivities. In a quiet corner, Alicia sat with James watching Ethan swirl watercolors on a small canvas. "He loves painting," she remarked. "He's so creative." James nodded, a proud smile on his face. "Ethan taught me more about patience and empathy than I ever learned in business school." Alicia inhaled the smoky fragrance of the barbecue, the laughter of friends in the background. "I never imagined my life could be like this," she confessed. "Even with all the drama, the tabloids, I feel I've found my purpose." James looked at her with a gentleness that spoke volumes. "So have I," he said quietly. "Seeing you make such an impact on people's lives has reminded me why I started all this in the first place. It's not just about money or prestige, it's about changing lives." Their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement that this unexpected journey had become integral to both of them. Months later, Alicia's micro-grant program evolved into a full-fledged initiative under the Harrington Acquisitions philanthropic arm. Beneficiaries included over 50 caregivers, multiple community clinics, and educational scholarships. It was a resounding success, validating James's faith in Alicia. But beyond the accomplishments, a quieter moment stood out. Alicia had returned to the Mirabelle one evening, not to work, but to dine with Ethan. She fed him soup just as she had the very first time, and James watched from across the table. The memory played in his mind how everything changed in that single moment when a compassionate waitress offered to help his son. Now, Alicia was more than a waitress. She was a leader, a philanthropist, a friend, but her heart remained the same, caring, humble, and fiercely dedicated. In a mirrored reflection of that very first night, James reached over and gently tucked a napkin under Ethan's chin. Alicia offered a spoonful of soup, and Ethan took it, giving a quiet sigh of contentment. Their eyes met across the table in a silent moment of gratitude. Each recognized how far they had come, how chance encounters could alter destinies. A year after Alicia first fed Ethan at the Mirabelle, the trio found themselves at another Redwood Foundation gala. This time, Alicia was not just an award recipient, she was a keynote speaker. She took the stage with poise, looking out at the crowd of philanthropists, community leaders, and everyday people. "In all our lives, there will be moments that test our kindness," Alicia began, "moments when a helping hand can transform not just one person's future, but many. I stand before you as proof that small acts of compassion can lead to enormous ripple effects. And I'm here to remind you that generosity is a choice we make every day." The applause was thunderous. Cameras flashed, capturing James Harrington in the front row. Ethan by his side, both wearing smiles that shone with pride. Behind them, Marcus Wilcox even offered a standing ovation. Finally convinced of Alicia's rightful place among them, Alicia lifted her gaze to the rafters, thinking of her grandmother. She felt a wave of bittersweet emotion, hoping Clara was looking down with pride. She closed her speech with words that resonated deeply with everyone present, especially James. "Together, we can create a world where no one is left behind, where compassion isn't an afterthought, but a guiding principle." In that moment, Alicia Monroe, once a black waitress quietly struggling to support her grandmother, stood tall as a symbol of resilience and hope. And James Harrington, once a distant billionaire father burdened with responsibilities, had rediscovered the very essence of humanity through one simple life-changing act of kindness. Thank you for joining us on this emotional, transformative journey. We've witnessed how a single compassionate gesture, a waitress feeding a disabled boy, unleashed a chain of events that changed multiple lives forever. From the first tender moment at the Mirabelle to the grand stage of philanthropic galas, Alicia's and James's story reminds us that empathy, courage, and generosity can thrive even in unexpected places. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. Share it with friends and family who could use some inspiration, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales that celebrate the power of kindness. Together, let's continue to spread hope and compassion, proving that every small act of goodness can spark a legacy of positive change. Thank you for watching, and remember, we all have the power to make a difference.